everybody, Lauren here from Airguns of Arizona, and today we're going to be taking a look at mil or mil radian versus MOA or minute of angle scopes. Now, this might seem a little daunting to a lot of first-time scope buyers, or if you've been in the game a while, understanding what a mil is and what an MOA is. What's important to remember is these units are angular measurements. They're not linear measurements. So while yards and feet, meters and centimeters might seem very linear and are very linear, mil and MOA are not linear, they're angular. So understand that the value of a mil and of an MOA changes as the distance changes because your radius from the center to the end changes. A mil or a mil radian roughly is defined as 3.6 inches at 100 yards. An MOA or a minute of angle is roughly defined as 1 inch at 100 yards. So these are approximate measurements and they are more specifically dumbed down here below, but this is basically what that is. So today I have two scopes here to help us out. These two scopes are the Athlon Midas TAC 5.5 to 25 by 56 scopes. The first one I have is in mil reticle, it's an APRS3, and the second one I have is an MOA reticle, it's the APLR4 reticle from them. So what is a mil radian scope? Well, a mil radian is more commonly referred to as a mil scope, and that refers to a unit of measure. A mil approximately is 3.6 inches at 100 yards. Today we only have a target at 50 yards, so 1 mil at 50 yards is only going to be about 1.8 inches. That's quite a lot for a mil, but let's see how it looks through the scope and what that means. So this is a 1/10 mil scope, so 1 mil will be 10 clicks over here. So let's move 1 mil and let's see if we really move 1.8 inches, okay? Here we go. And I'm gonna move in the same direction, so the reticle will be going down, but I am moving up on my scope because that's the way the scope works. Okay, so I'm gonna go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And as we can see there, it's almost 1 inch, not quite, but almost 1 inch. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And that seems to hold true because that looks to be about 1.8 inches, right? If I give it one more click, it's gonna go to a full 2 inches. That's full 2 inches is 11 clicks in a mil, so it would be 1.1 mils, and that holds true. That's exactly what we said 1 mil means. Understand that once we get out further at 100 yards, that same amount of adjustment will move you 3.6 inches. Let's move it back to 0, which will be 11 clicks. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. And as we can see, we're back to exactly being at 0, and we're exactly on our 0 red dot that we made in the beginning to show that this is how a mil scope works. So it's like if you're in the US and you say you have to turn left in 3 miles, everybody knows how far that is. Once you get to a different country that uses a metric system, for instance, you would use kilometers instead of miles, and that is the same way here. At your gun club, they might be using MOA, then you use MOA. If they use mil, you use mil, or you use the reticle that you like the most and the amount of adjustments you like the most. So that's a mil reticle. That's the amount that you want to move. Typically in mil scopes, you like to use a larger value. 1 mil represents a very big number of spaces. 1.8 inches at 50 yards, that's a lot of space. I mean, 1 click, it's gonna move you quite some distance. So in types of shooting that you have to click a lot or that you have to move a lot or anything like that, you're probably gonna wanna use mil more so because you're able to say it's only 1 mil or 2 mil or 3 mil and use a smaller value, okay? If we look through the scope as well, we have the dot in the middle right there. And you can see that there are hash marks to the left and the right of the dot, up and down, and there are numbers there, 2, 4, 6. Those are your mil markings. So every large hash mark is gonna be 1 mil over, and then you have the 2, the 4, and the 6 from there. So that is a mil scope, and that's how a mil scope looks. Now let's jump over to MOA and see what that looks like. So now we're looking at MOA. Well, MOA is a little bit different. That refers to a minute of angle. Now a minute of angle is 1 inch approximately at 100 yards. That means at 50 yards, it's only gonna be a half an inch. This is a 1 1/4 MOA scope, so that means 4 clicks equals 1 MOA. So 4 clicks is only gonna move me half an inch at 50 yards. So let's check that out. So we're exactly in the middle right there. And I'm gonna go 1 MOA down, so 4 clicks down. And as you can see right there, we're exactly in the half of those squares. So I'm gonna go another MOA down, and we should be 1 full inch down at 50 yards. There we go. So that is 2 MOA that I have adjusted the scope, and I have moved 1 full inch down at 50 yards. So that holds true. That means at 50 yards, 1 MOA is equal to a half an inch, so 2 MOA, we're 1 full inch down. Now remember, I am adjusting the scope up, but the reticle is physically going to move down because you're adjusting your pellet spot where it's gonna hit. So you're not adjusting what's happening to the reticle, you're adjusting the outcome from the reticle if you were to take the shot. So that's why it looks a little different, but just stick with me here. So I'm gonna go back to our original spot. That's gonna be 8 clicks up. So let's count them. 1, 2, 3, 4, and we're in the half, 5, 6, 7, 8. And then we're perfectly returned to 0. So we've perfectly returned to our red dot spot on there, and that goes to show how an MOA scope works, so a minute of angle scope. You'll also notice on the sides there are very large units. So there is a 10, and a 15 and a 20. The 20 is just about out of the scope, but those refer to MOA hash marks. So 1 MOA, as you can see, is a very small amount of space on the scope. So this is a little bit finer adjustments. That means 1 MOA is going to move you a half an inch at 50 yards. So every click is only going to move you 1/8 of an inch at 50 yards. That's a very fine adjustment, but when you're adjusting for long range, you might be forced to turn a lot of clicks. So that is the benefit of a mil versus the MOA, is if you're shooting longer distances, you will have less clicks to get to your spot. But if you're shooting shorter distances, the MOA is usually a finer adjustment scope. So that's your basic differences between mil versus MOA. So basically the takeaway here is that 1 mil refers to 3.6 inches approximately at 100 yards. 1 MOA refers to approximately 1 inch at 100 yards. So that's your takeaway here. Your MOA is going to be much finer adjustments, and your mil is going to be much coarse adjustments for a longer range of shooting. And that's our takeaway from mil versus MOA. So thank you very much for watching mil versus MOA, and please be sure to like and subscribe down below if you did like it, and be sure to tune into the next one. I'll see you later.